All right. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Chad Morrison. Thank you for joining us on Standing in the Gap with Chad. I am here today with Miss Patricia Moore, who is the county court clerk, and we're going to be talking to her about different things, what she stands for, her political views, what she does, and all of those things as we prepare for elections. As a matter of fact, there's elections now. You can go vote today, I reckon.
As of last Friday.
As of last Friday, you can go to the registrar's.
Go to voter registration. That is at the county office building where the administrator is on Frenchmore Drive, past Virginia Homes Community College.
All right. Well, let's get into this. So, Miss Moore, we've crossed paths throughout history a few times. I know you know my family a little bit, but as far as really knowing each other, we really don't. So I really appreciate you taking time to sit down with me and giving our viewers kind of an inside look of what you do and how you do it and why you're running and different things like that. You probably heard that one of my first questions that I asked for my own personal pleasure, you could say, is, are you a Christian?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Could you share your testimony with how you come to know the Lord?
Of course. First of all, I'd like to say thank you for having me. I'm glad to be at Grace's Tabernacle here today. I hope the viewers find this informational, and hopefully you'll learn a bit of something about the clerk's office and that. But I'm from Washington County. I graduated right up the street here from John Battle High School.
Okay.
And my childhood church, my family, we went, and that's where I heard the word.
Yeah.
You know, you listen for a long time and then you hear.
Yeah.
And I was around the age of 11, and I struggled at the age of 11 with do I make a profession of faith? Do I wait? Because, we learned that, Jesus was 12, and then we hear from other people how age 12 is the age of accountability. So you wonder, I struggle with that, but we had a revival when I was 11, and there was my answer. I had a revival, and I not only listened, but I heard.
Yeah.
And I heard. And
there's a difference.
Well, there was a huge difference, because that was the first time that I heard and was convicted by what I heard. Yeah. And we went home that night after revival, and I talked to my mother. And I told her, I said, I want to make a profession of faith. And I remember, she teared up, and she's like, well, I wondered what's been wrong with you the last few days. So I've been under conviction. And she said, basically, yes, the Lord can use you. So I felt that big weight off of me. And the next night, we walked down the aisle. Whoa. And I made a profession of faith. And that's, and then I also had a rededication of my life when, right before I had my oldest.
Okay.
Because, I was convicted then about being a godly mother. Yeah.
Those are important facts. I really like on something that you mentioned is conviction. And, as a Christian and as a preacher, I try to conduct these interviews as independent as possible, based on whatever you decide that you want to be, but at the same time, conviction. That's that moral compass that God gives us that shows us, hey, there's a problem in your life. And even after we get saved, there's that conviction that shows us, His Spirit shows us, it wasn't right, you shouldn't do that. And that's something that so many people don't think about today is that convicting spirit that draws. So I'm really glad that you hit on that. And I'll leave that right there so that I don't go off on some radical tangent or something. But I do appreciate that. Okay, so what does the court clerk do?
All right, the clerk of circuit court in the Commonwealth of Virginia I've been told in conversation that my office does what about 6 offices in another state does.
Oh, wow.
I have an 8-year term, and that 8-year term comes from, I'm not only the clerk of court, but I'm also what other states call register of deeds. Virginia's Commonwealth, and we've got states and commonwealths, but anyway, I'm registered of deeds as well. And as a free public service, because I'm not paid. If I were an attorney outside of the court system, I would be paid for the service of it. I also was appointed a general receiver. I'll talk so fast, and that one's hard even for me to say. I'm general receiver for Washington County, which means any funds that come into the court that are ordered to be held by the general receiver, you hold them, you invest them, and you maintain those funds until such time as the court orders the receiver to release them. And that's the Reader's Digest version of what the receiver has to do, because there's a lot in between. So I offer that. That's a free service to the county, because, like I said, other people outside, would be being paid for that.
Right.
So those are the major headings of what I do. Now, the office, according to the Code of Virginia, there are over 800 separate duties required of the circuit court clerk's office. And every time I talk to somebody, I tell them my jokes, and this is my saying. But my joke is, some days we feel like we've done them all twice. It's busy there. But if you need to record a deed or a land record, that comes to my office. If you need to probate a will and someone passes, that comes to my office. If you need to become guardian over an incapacitated or elderly person, that comes through my office. If you need to file a civil suit over a certain monetary value, comes to my office. We handle the felonies. We handle appeals from the lower courts, which are the district courts.
Okay.
We handle the appeals that come up, and we also handle the cases that are certified with the grand jury. Grand jury, the regular jury called the petite jury, but the regular jury, jury commission, which is if you've got an eminent domain case, where, let's say, for instance, it could be Appalachian Electric, it could be Washington County Service Authority, it could be Highway Department. They can say, we need to take part of this property because we're going to widen the road, we're going to build a bridge, we're going to do that kind of thing, or we need to put up some power, we need to put up some towers and that. And those cases come to us, and those commissioners serve on those juries. And like I said, that's a 101 of what we do. Marriage license, I sign this concealed handgun permits here in the county. Just those are extreme highlights, because we also run a business. We have to have pen and copy paper and that kind of thing too. I handle my own IT. The county does not handle my IT.
Okay.
I'm being a constitutional officer and a clerk of the circuit court. That those responsibilities lie with me.
Wow.
So again, I could go on with this for the whole 20 minutes, but that's just kind of an idea of what it is that we do there. But we have a lot that is required of the office.
Wow, I had no idea. That kind of brings up another question for me is, how did you go about preparing to become the clerk? I mean, what kind of education, schooling to get here?
There is no degree program that will prepare you for being the clerk of the circuit court. You can have a degree in many different things that would touch an area of what we do.
Right.
But there is no one degree program that says, and now you're prepared to go be the circuit court clerk. I graduated from John Battle High School. And after that, I was not really sure. I knew I wanted to do something that had to do with local government.
Yeah.
Because when I was in school, there was a civics class in 7th grade. And in that class, I heard they used to teach us all about local government, how it works, and then we moved up the line. I was very interested in local government. And I was just very interested in how that worked and knowing who these people were, that kind of thing. So I kind of had that in the back of my mind, but I really did not know how to go about getting a foot in the door. Fast forward, I go to business school. Went to business school, and I don't know if you say major, but I took a lot of accounting along with the other courses. So wherever I go, they're going to need somebody who can balance books and do that kind of
Yeah.
thing. And maybe that's my end. So I did that, and then not long after I got finished with that, I got married, have a daughter, my oldest, and I got a call from a friend of mine that said, "Hey, this law office needs somebody, and it sounds like something right up your alley." And I thought, okay, that's interesting. So I went to work for the law firm of Johnson Cyphers in Austin, part-time, for a bit. So I said, I had another, she was still really small. So I went there, started out part-time as kind of receptionist, and then I was there for 2 years, and it didn't take me long. I started doing title examinations and loan closings for them.
Okay.
And did that, and then somebody from the clerk's office approached me and said, "We're going to have a full-time opening. You have skills that we need as far as what we're going to need when you start out. Are you interested?" Okay, yes, very. So went to circuit court. I was hired there in 1990, and the rest is history. I'm still there.
Wow. So you had a lot of on-the-job training.
On-the-job training. Not only that, it takes on-the-job training. It takes 2 years to feel comfortable with being a full-time employee in the clerk's office. Imagine how long it takes for you to be able to handle the duties of the clerk.
Wow.
So, yeah, and along with that, we had a lot of educational sessions, that kind of thing. When I became clerk, I decided that I was a certified deputy clerk, chief deputy, because I did everything in the office. And as I moved, through duties, as things would kind of like, time goes on and you have different needs. So I was chief deputy when I ran for clerk, and I've been to a lot of the statewide sessions, that kind of thing. Once I became clerk, I was a certified, master chief, and then after it took me a year, and I had my certification as a master clerk. Then I was invited my first year as clerk, which was I was very humbled by it. I was asked by Virginia Court Clerks Association, that's the professional association, if I would like to participate on the education committee. The education committee is 15 people across Commonwealth. There are 120 clerks. And I was asked to fill that vacancy. They had one vacancy, and you have to be invited. Right. So I've been on the education committee since 2008.
Wow.
And through that, I was asked to be on a subcommittee of career development. So while I was taking the courses necessary to become a certified court manager, I was also becoming adjunct faculty through the Institute for Court Management, so that I could teach some of these courses. Because in doing that, I'm not only helping my office, my locality, but other people, because they offer those courses at a discounted rate because we're peer faculty. Okay. So I was very proud to be asked to do that, and I took that on. I did that as well. And from there, it just goes. I've been president of I'm a past president of Virginia Court Clerks Association, member of several other professional associations, but I've been also asked to participate in a few different statewide commissions.
Wow.
And one of those commissions was the WINGS, and other states had adopted. We did it. That's the Working Interdisciplinary Network of Guardians and Conservators and that kind of thing. And that opened up a lot of information and a lot of help for elderly and incapacitated persons. So that, and then of course I was on Pandemic Preparedness Committee. So came in handy. But yes. So I've done a lot.
So I have another question for me. How big is your hat closet?
It
because it sounds like you wear a lot of different hats.
Yeah, it's not.
It's just part of the job to you.
To me, it's all part and parcel when we go in every day, because the job is good for me. I told somebody today, passed him in the hallway, and I said, I'm doing 7 things right now, and I wasn't kidding. At that point, it's just, I feel like, you feel like sometimes you're put in places you're supposed to be and doing things you're supposed to do. So I don't stress it.
Yeah, and a lot of times it's, especially if you trust God, it's not always what you think it'll be, but God has a way of putting you where He wants you, especially if you're willing to say, here I am, God, put me where you want me.
There's a reason, exactly.
Good deal. All right, so you're running as a Republican.
Yes.
So where do you find, because and I know if you've watched any of these videos, this is something I think a lot of local constituents kind of look at. I think on a more local level, most Washington County citizens, the majority, not all, but the majority are very independent, very down the middle as far as the people goes. There are some who are hardcore Republican, and there's those who are hardcore Democrat. But at the same time, for the most part, people are looking at the skill set, the person.
Mm-hmm.
But where do you find on that political spectrum of what they would say far right to far left? Where do you fit into that spectrum as a Republican?
I've always run as a Republican. The first time I ran as a Republican, being a Republican was not cool in Washington County. It wasn't, but when I looked at it and decided that I was going to affiliate with a party, the Republican Party lined up with my personal beliefs.
Yeah.
So, and I think there are a lot of independents in Washington County,
Mm-hmm.
and that I think they're independent who lean conservative.
Yeah.
And that's where I was when I started. I have realized through my work and what I've done and through the years in the county, I'm conservative. And I feel like local elections, now you could be in here next year with, somebody running for, let's say, one of the federal positions or whatever, and you're going to hear something different. People are more hardlined in statewide. Local elections, we know each other.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people vote for the right person for the position.
Yeah.
If I needed to use the circuit court clerk's office on January the 2nd, who do I want to see in there? If I come in and I have a need and I don't need disruption of service, who's that going to be?
Yeah.
Because we are, and this reminds me of today, because a dear friend, I'm a road trail for high second, a dear friend of mine gave me the original, years ago, the original Jesus Calling. Okay, I keep it in my office, keep it right behind my desk, and read that every day. And it's the same 365 devotions every year.
Yeah.
And I absolutely, every year you go through that and it speaks to you on that day.
Yeah.
So, off the rabbit trail. But today, that devotion was about, how Jesus is the King that is accessible. Oftentimes, in especially modern society, the people in positions aren't accessible.
Yeah.
But Jesus is, and I think this is why I'm where I'm at. This is why I felt compelled toward local government, because we are accessible. We are the people that you can come and see.
Yeah.
We're the people that, if you need FaceTime, you just come and get it. You walk in the office and sit down. and and talk to me.
But to that point, though, that is very true with local elections. But most citizens still want to be able to walk into Kane's office or Colin's hat, like make an appointment and sit down, and they expect all of their duly elected officials to be accessible. And when they're not, it looks bad on them. I mean, most people are, don't get me wrong, there's business to be done and they've got jobs, that they're doing. But when they don't try to be accessible, at college, your teachers are busy, but they give a time period during the week where they say, okay, these hours are my accessible hours. These are my hours where you can come to me and we can sit down and talk about these things. And I think a lot of constituents, they would really like to see more of that.
Well, and there's not anybody that I know personally, and that's a lot of people in Washington County in my many years here, who know that 24 hours a day, if you need Trish, you can get a hold of her. A lot of people message me. A lot of people have a number. A lot of people, and like when you called to remind me yesterday morning, do you know that you weren't the first person I talked to about something to do with business? And it's been Christmas Eve. It's been, any holiday, anytime. It's been, 9:00 at night on Tuesday. It's been all the time, but people know they can ask me, they can find me, they can ask me, and I'm going to give them like the shortest route to getting what they need done, because that's where my heart is with people here. That's where it is. But it was funny today, because that's what that was about, was accessibility. And I think in local elections, that's why people kind of, vote across the board in more of a local election. Now, other elections, people are going to stay hardline. And like in my race, I'm going to tell people, I'm a conservative, I'm a good steward, these kinds of, these are things that I've worked toward and been guided toward on how to do. But with some of the other positions that you're going to be voting for, I don't make law. I don't set policy. Mm-hmm. The only thing that I can affect is internal policy. Like, okay, this is how we're going to do, this is how we're going to do this particular task.
Basically how you run the office.
How I run the office. And because Code of Virginia says either the clerk may or the clerk shall. If it says clerk shall, no question. That's what I do, because I'm sworn to uphold the Constitution, and that includes the law. And if the clerk may, I'll look at it and think, who's to benefit most from this? Is this of a benefit to the person who is asking me to do this? Then sure. Those are the only judgment calls I have.
So then, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll switch this over so we can give you a drink.
Yes.
We've covered actually quite a bit of this, but how do you feel, or what do you feel still needs to be accomplished in the clerk's office? It sounds like you've got a pretty well-oiled machine, but do you find that there are things that you still feel like you need to work on?
As far as the clerk's office, there are a lot of moving parts. And what I think, there are still things, of course, that I'd like to do. There are still some technologies and that kind of thing. But being a good steward with the funds that I have to use, I'm not bleeding edge technology. And there's a balance between, I don't require our technology, a lot of technology be used. Like if you come in to record a deed, there are clerk's offices that say you have to do that online. You can step in our records room and put that on the computer. Everybody's not a student. Some people, honestly, just say, I don't want to do that. I'm just not going to do that. And I'm like, that's cool. Fine. You don't have to. And I like to make that balance that actually, I think benefits citizens. They have a choice. Mm-hmm. But yeah, there are some technologies that I would still like to, and improving, currently what we have, upgrades, that kind of thing. Those are the things. Right now, my focus is, and like I said, I was on the COOP plan commission for the Commonwealth, so I am the continuity of operations person, and looking ahead to see, once they finish with the rebuild and they're starting to actually renovate, I started thinking about this some time ago. how are we gonna handle these certain duties? So right now, I'm in the throes of how we're going to deal with when they actually come into our office and get started doing some of the things that they're doing. There's always room for upgrade improvement.
So let me ask you this, the new part of the building, because I don't know that, I know I haven't heard, is that all parking or is that offices as well?
Those are offices and courtrooms.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you will be trying to transition some way or another to do your job while they're remodeling?
We're currently in the clerk's office. The office, we are moving across the hall to part of what used to be the old Commonwealth Attorney's office.
Okay.
So we'll be over there for a while, so that's one move. They're gonna renovate, and then we're all moving back. And then they're gonna renovate over here, and then part of us is going across the hall. So we have 3 moves coming in, so I have to coordinate technology vendors, I have to coordinate movers, I have to get, and right now, like I said, there's a lot to that part of it, but in preparation for that, we follow a retention schedule that is set out by Library of Virginia, and that's another subcommittee I'm on right now. I'm on the subcommittee of people who are helping rewrite and update that retention schedule.
Okay.
So we've got that tells us what can go, what's not your history, what can go. So we're getting ready to do, we do this every year on schedule, but we're getting ready to dig deeper and take everything out of the space. So when everything comes out of our space, we are left with exactly only what we're going to need. So if we have to move something, it can go. But there's a lot to that. And yes, we're going to have 3 moves, and I'm prepared for that. Hey, I was so prepared for COVID that, that's a joke. Nobody's prepared for COVID, but I was so prepared for COVID that I got a new land technology vendor. A week in November that year of 2020, I had everyone in the office but me was exposed to COVID, and that was the time when you had to go home. So I was in the office for 10 days. It was me. And the vendor came during that time. So when the switch was flipped to go over to them, everything you needed to record could be done online.
Wow.
Everything that you needed to look at to do a title update was online. That was like, that was the best timing. And things like that, you have to be ready. You have to know what the issues are. You have to know where your problems, you have to know where your problems may lie. You have to be, and so I've been in planning mode since they voted on let's give them the money.
Yeah. Okay, I do have a question, and you've already touched on this, but I want to kind of clarify it for the audience. How do you foresee how you can help the citizens of Washington County more? I'm trying to word this better. Do you foresee issues that the public have that you're working on or you're trying to get ahead of to make their coming into the office easier for them and you guys? How can you help the public more?
We talked about this before we started, speaking for this broadcast. If you need a concealed handgun permit, traditionally you came to the office, you filled out your application, did everything there, but then you used to have to come back and pick them up. Mm-hmm. I said, let's flip this, and why don't they come in and apply, then we'll mail those. Okay. And then that went to, now that they're coming in and applying, and we mail them back, why don't we take this show on the road? So I go to the sheriff's department, and they do handgun permit classes, and I offer the opportunity for Washington County residents, because those are the only people who can apply with me. Washington County residents apply there, so they don't ever have to come to the clerk's office, especially in this mess that we've got going on there right now. They can apply there, and you'll get it in the mail.
So you just try to make sure that not only are you accessible there, but you try to be accessible for other venues of the county.
Right, we do, we'll be invited to, different, we're having an event, for instance, Southwest Virginia, or the Southwest Virginia Veterans Expo. That's a mouthful. That's happening in October at Higher Ed Center. We offer the opportunity there if you need to renew your ambulance permit or apply. Like I said, we take the show on the road, you can do it there. And I also now offer, if you go to county government, Washington County, Virginia, click on government, click on circuit court clerk, right there on my webpage, click the button and you can apply online.
Oh, cool. Did not know that.
That was one of those things I started working on because I knew it was going to be very difficult for people to, at some point, get in to do things. And we have those things to offer. I want people to be able to, be able to do what they need to do. So those are some of the, that's just some of the stuff that I've been working on.
Good deal. All right. One more question, because we've really covered about everything, and this may be a very simple question to answer, and really you may not even need to answer it, but I'm still going to ask it. With all of the divisions in the county, we touched on this with how most people in Washington County are pretty independent. They lean conservative, and they base their decisions more on conservatism in Washington County versus party line. But if you could give the state of Virginia or even the national level, how can we come together and work together instead of being so divided?
Well, that's something else that we touched on before we went live here. It's the nature of man.
Yeah.
The nature of man. And even, unfortunately, even people who, profess to be Christians can't interact with other people in a Christian manner. Sometimes we don't see that, but that's what other people see.
That makes me question their religion, but
Well, I look at it this
we
way.
all have bad days.
Everybody's got a bad day, but if you're having like 365 in a row, you may want to have.
Yeah.
But that's, to me, if I have to advertise it that hard, I'm not walking it.
Yeah.
I'm not walking it, and I would have, and two, I've got a support group of friends and family who would go, we need to talk to you.
Yeah.
We need to talk to you about this. You hear people say, I want to treat people the way I want to be treated, and that kind of, and then they misquote the golden rule or whatever.
Right.
But we also talk about this. It's the conviction.
Yeah.
It's a conviction on how you should behave and
That
how you
brings
should love
up
others.
another question and point though that I've kind of touched on with other people, because I've been very blessed that there's not been any mud throwing, mud slinging with this. Everybody's done what I hope they told about themselves. But one of the things that has come about from time to time that I hear, and I haven't really filmed too much of it, is the separation of church and state. But for me, the way I see it, the way I believe, is if I hold democratic values, those values will go with me wherever I go. If I hold Republican values, those values are going to go with me wherever I go. If I'm a Christian and I truly love God, there's no separation of church and state, because those values dictate how I perceive and conduct myself. But there are some people today that want to say, oh, you can't do that because that's separation of church and state. To me, I'm like, let's sit down and read the separation of church and state letters, because I think you misrepresent what they're trying to say. That's a whole different argument. But that's so true today, though, that you can't separate that. It's part of who we are. And what I'm hearing from you is the answer to that question that I didn't ask, but think about with these videos. Regardless, if you're a Christian, it's going to show through.
Exactly. You don't have to have a circus to make a spectacle of yourself. And as a matter of fact, I think a lot of people, I've talked to some people who say, people who do that, who, like I said, you have to, make a big old spectacle about it. that's off-putting because my Christ, my sacrifice for the remission of my sins, who I hold dear, is not a political tool.
No.
It's not a tool for somebody to use, like in an office, whether they're appointed. You don't have to be elected to do that. Some people are appointed. I think that you look at we have a Republican creed in Virginia, it's like, I'm not gonna, say quite a bit, we believe in free enterprise, we believe in, and basically, and that's one of the things I like about the Republican Party. I truly believe in small government and states' rights. I believe there's a great overreach in higher areas, and
in some ways, the libertarian movement actually overlaps with the Republican Party.
well, it's like, and
But they don't want to talk about it.
well, they don't, and because libertarians are. You've got all these parapolitical organizations too. We have one in Washington County that we have a lot of people participate in. They can't get anybody on the ballot, but they meet and they talk about like ideas and that kind of thing, and that's fine. If you put us in a Venn diagram, we're all gonna, the little areas that meet are all gonna be within the Republican realm.
Yeah.
And it depends on and who you join in that set depends on if you have strong or not strong beliefs in social issues, let's say, because a lot of people just want to talk about certain social issues, and nobody really on certain of them. They don't want to hear what I have to say because it's like the government school has no business teaching what the family should be teaching.
Right.
Those kinds of things. So, but yes, it does affect us. And some people don't understand the idea of what actual separation of church and state is.
No. But a lot of that comes back to why I'm doing these videos.
Uh-huh.
We want people to be informed. And
Right.
that's part of what this channel, I pray, continues to move towards, is setting down with true blue people, even if they're pastors or if they hold a position in the government. There's a lot of reason why, even if you're not a Christian, why the Bible makes sense. It just really does. And I think a lot of these issues can be brought back to a common sense approach. And then when you put the Bible with that, there's a lot of issues that can be fixed.
Right.
And I would like for the audience to learn and come to that point where they think, because I didn't always think like this. I wasn't always this person, before I got saved. But, there's a lot we're responsible for. And as we get older, there's a generation coming up behind us that needs to know. And we need to be the ones to offer them ways and solutions to learn and understand. Anyways, I want to give you a couple minutes anyways to just kind of, say what you want to say, kind of freely speak for a few minutes.
Just wrap it up. Everybody calls it the elevator pitch. I thank you for having me here. Thanks for talking and bringing up some of these issues. There aren't many platforms that are going to say, okay, first and foremost, do you consider yourself Christian, or are you a Christian, or without going, what denomination and that, because nature of man, we don't want to be judgmental in this, and we want to know.
Yeah.
We just want to know. I can't affect laws or state policies or county policies or whatever, but I can make decisions for my office. Do I ask for guidance with those? Is that part of my prayer? Yes, it is. It really is. I feel like with the number of years that I've been in the clerk's office, number of years that I've been clerk, the love I have for, it's an honor and it's this and it's that. It is. It is. If you hear me speak any 2 or 3 places, you're not going to hear me say the same thing all the time. I don't have that rote speech. I just get up and give. I do.
Well, this is a pretty painful interview, I know.
Well, yeah, exactly. But what I'm saying is, this is my home. This is my home, and my youngest is a senior Pat McHenry, and so this is my home. This is my school system. This is my local government, and I have to. We don't get a discount as constitutional officer when it comes to personal property, real estate, any of that. We don't get that. I pay taxes too. I enjoy the fact that I have a voice in the capacity of just a citizen. I'm certainly work on the scale of things in life, that's not very important. But I love the job I do. It's not about position and that kind of thing with me. It's how I get to serve my county and have job too. And folks work in the office, we're family. We become family after so many years together and that, and it is just, it's a wonderful work environment. We have good, we think like we mesh well, those kinds of things, and it's blessing. So that's why I take every opportunity I can. I'm asking for everyone's vote, and I'm asking for everyone's vote because I have a great group of folks in the office. I honestly believe that Lord put everybody there who's there, and they do the jobs that they're meant to do, and they're there for a reason. I feel as though, I won't get into the long story of how I, came to the decision to actually run for clerk. It had a lot to do with putting the police out a few times, and it was dry, and
what time?
Long story short, this was my first opportunity, and I said, Lord, I don't know, but I knew that I was supposed to run, but He gave me the wisdom to understand I wasn't necessarily going to win.
Yeah.
Because refiner's fire comes in many shapes, and
that most likely was God's way of shaping and molding you. I guess I'll bring this point up. We don't want pain. We don't want hurt or suffering or heartache. But those are the times that really mold and make us and show us who we really are. So my motto is, no matter how hard it is, no matter how bad it is, God's got a lesson in it for you or for somebody through you if you'll just let it.
And if you are doing what He is guiding you to do, if you take the path and do what He's telling you to do, He will bring you through it. Now, it's not going to be easy, but He will bring you through it. And I have found in this position, things that happen, and I'm thinking, you did this. I know that you brought this person in here today because they needed to hear this. I had people who have been in situations they never thought their family would be in, and I'd say, do you mind if I shut the door for a minute? Yeah. And when you start talking to them, you find out, they're Christians or people of faith. And then I'm like, if you don't mind me speaking freely, and you can just tell me you were put here today for this particular reason, because let me share, let me give you some testimony here. And you can tell and I feel like that's, why I was led to do this, is because I've come across so many people who were downtrodden, who were hopeless and that kind of thing. And the first thing I think is, Lord, if I'm supposed to speak, then you better give me the words, because I'll mess them up. So, that's also why I really enjoy getting to do this. Not because, look at me, I can help you with the problems, but I just appreciate the opportunities that have been put in front of me.
Good. I don't think that the audience, when you guys sit down with me, I hide my nervousness, I think, fairly well. But I get nervous doing this. I don't even like to hear myself. So this is an undertaking, for me to share these things. But this is something that I prayed about, and I felt like, it was calling me to do. All right, so Ms. Moore, I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you.
Thank you for taking time. I know you're even busier than I thought. Remember, voting is important. These candidates come out here with me so that you can know who they are and what they stand for, and whether or not that you align with how they believe. And that's the purpose of these interviews, so that you can know and be informed. So please like, subscribe, share. Help me pray if you're a prayer warrior to how to continue this channel even when the elections are over. And don't forget to pray for your local leaders. 2 Timothy says we're even supposed to pray for our kings and stuff that are over us. You might not want to, but they need your prayers too. All right, until next time, Lord willing, we'll be back tomorrow evening with another contestant. All right? Have a great day. Bye.